Welcome to Her Imprint, part of the Impressions Exchange. I'm Denise Gustafson, your host. This podcast celebrates the remarkable women who are transforming the printing industry. We'll explore their journeys, from challenges to triumphs, and share the stories that leave a lasting imprint. Today, I have with me Shannon Romeo. She's the Chief Impact Officer with Strategic Factory. So Shannon, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. So to get us started today, could you give me really high level what's Strategic Factory and what kind of things do you do?
Strategic Factory, we're based in northern Baltimore County, Maryland. We are really the single point provider, the one-stop shop for anything that business is looking to do from a marketing standpoint. We started as a printer traditionally in doing the stationery business card, letterhead, envelopes, flyers, brochures, all the things that you would typically think of. Grown from that to also today doing large format printing. We do commercial fabricated signage. We're also doing agency services. So anything that a business might want to put their logo on from an intangible standpoint, like a website or a marketing campaign, we're managing their social media for them in a service capacity. And then we also have a division that's doing promotions and braided apparel.
So a little bit of everything at this point.
Yes, we've really tried to diversify to do everything that a business might need, whether they're trying to work with their external client or their internal client, like their employees.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get started in print?
I think a lot of other people would say I fell into the job that I'm in today and into the industry that I'm in today. I didn't go to college and say I'm going to work in printing, but I went to college, and during that time, I had a part-time job working for Staples, actually in a coffee shop, and really just picked up a lot of different things from there. Enjoyed a little bit of the creativity of it, a little bit of the mechanics of it, and I graduated college during the recession when everything was crashing, and they had offered me an opportunity to go into their management training program. And when I realized I was going to be the only one of my friends to graduate with a job, if I said yes to that, I said yes to that.
Good plan.
Yeah. And I spent about 6 years there learning a lot of different things in operations and in human resources and in marketing and picking up different skills in the different roles that I had, working a lot with different teams. In doing so, I started to figure out that I really liked the people aspect of things. So I was relocating from New Jersey to Baltimore, and I was throwing my resume to the wall to see what stuck because I didn't want to move without a job. And I ended up finding an opening to be Keith, our CEO's assistant, being posted. And I was like, I can be somebody's assistant for a year so that I can move to Baltimore and have a job to have that security when we moved here. I ended up going in for the interview and talking to the recruiter a little bit and hearing that the position had been filled, but they liked my resume and they wanted to talk to me. I really enjoyed the conversation that Keith and I had. I came back for a second one, and we took this leap of faith conversation on each other of come be my assistant for a period of time. I'll open the job that you want that's more on the people side of things, and wound up after about 6 weeks there. I think just the right things all came together. The right person had decided it was time for them to move on. The right needs and responsibilities opened for me to take things that were more in the human resources side of things from finance, because it was a small business at the time. It was about 70 people. And we were breaking ground on the new corporate headquarters and needing to grow pretty quickly to 100 people. So I got to do a lot of recruiting very quickly. And that turned into me getting to build an HR department in connection with Keith as our CEO and with a couple other people who were there in the company at that time. And then from there, I had dabbled in the marketing space on and off during my whole time supporting that team, starting with when the first marketing director that was there when I got there ended up going on maternity leave, and really supporting the team through that. And I've been in and out of it ever since. And about 2 years ago, I guess I would say, I took over the marketing team as well full time. So I get to have this really unique combination of efforts where I get to work with our employees and their experience that they have with our brand, and our clients and prospects and the experience that they have with our brand.
Really interesting. You really did join the human aspect and the creative aspect, two things that you really were passionate about,
Yeah.
into a job that was custom made for you.
Yeah. I think it's funny. A lot of people will ask you, and when you're doing interviews and things like that, what do you like about working there? What do you not like about working there? How do you feel about the company? And I always preface it with saying, I'm not paid to say this. And I know that it makes me sound weird to say this, but I actually genuinely like my job most days. It's not perfect. No job is perfect. Not every day is amazing, but most days I like my job. And I think that makes me a little bit weird.
I have to say, I agree. I like my job most days as well. So
And
we're in the
good.
same weird camp, apparently.
Yeah.
So when you went to college, what did you go for? What was your game plan? Did you have a, I'm going to grow up and be,
I actually had taken an economics class in high school, and I had just a really good teacher who was really passionate and looked at it from a real life approach while everybody else was teaching to the tests and things like that. He took that week that everybody kind of zones out in senior year, if you're exempt from your finals and things like that. And he's on Monday, I'm going to teach you about student loans. On Tuesday, I'm going to teach you about how to buy a car. On Wednesday, I'm going to teach you about mortgages. So he just was like very real life in his approach to things, and it made me very interested in the topic. I actually thought that I was going to be a financial advisor because I liked that experience so much, and I ultimately got a degree in economics, but knew that pretty quickly in the financial side of it was not scratching that itch for me. And so I ended up taking a few labor econ and human resources oriented classes. And that's where things connected for me to go into that people side of things, that more I think HR and marketing, they both kind of bridge that psychology gap
yeah.
and that psychological side of economics, why people make the decisions that they make and how they're motivated. I think that really connected for me.
Yeah, with some of that, the economics, whatever, it could be a lot of spreadsheets and it's a lot of black and white and math. My husband's an
Yeah.
accountant, so I understand that side of that, but it's definitely not me.
Yeah. I didn't love the math classes, the statistics and the regression analysis and things like that. I tried to pick as interesting of topics as I could in doing the math
Yeah.
in order to keep that engaging for me. But I definitely could not see myself being an accountant or being a financial advisor. I think that's the naivety of being 18. You go in thinking that something is perfect for you. And thank God I figured that out before I spent a fortune going down the path of a career I didn't desire to keep.
Yes. Unfortunately, I know many people not in this industry, but that I knew growing up that have done that they did the undergraduate, they did some of their masters and they realized, yeah, this is really not what I wanted to do and have to
Yeah.
go and start all over again. It boggles my mind to have to go and re-spend that money. For you, what was exactly that turning point or that aha moment that really said print and the printing industry is my people? Was there a moment?
I think a lot of it has to do with just the company that I've been in for the last 11 years and the experience that I've had there with the people that are there. I think there is this misconception that print is very old school. There's no advancement happening. It's a dying industry. And not that there's not condensing happening and closures and mergers and acquisitions. Those things happen in any industry. But I think the fact that I was in an organization that had this entrepreneurial spirit, that everybody was really desiring to grow the business, and the growth that I've seen in the time that I've been there for me has been the drive to stay in the industry. Like I had said earlier, when I came to the company, it was about 70 people. And today it's about 150 and it's grown during busy times and things like that to as many as 170, 175. So there's a lot of fresh ideas. There's a lot of new blood. There's a lot of growth opportunity and it's a very energetic place to be.
Mhm.
So I think that really for me was the opportunity for somebody who's more HR minded to have a seat at the table is not common in a lot of businesses, but in a business that's growing and that's very much dependent on the people to grow and has that entrepreneurial spirit, you get that seat at the table. And for me, that's been what has kept me in the industry.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say. There's that misconception about print. Yes, you're in a very forward-thinking company. You're in a growing company. So obviously you have a certain perspective. But then you have other companies or other people that from the outside looking in, it's dying, it's slow, it's old. How do you combat that, especially with you in dealing with new people coming in? How do you combat that maybe challenge that is offered in some cases?
I think there's two ways that we combat that. So, one, I'm going to say on the recruiting front of things, the way that we advertise, we talk a lot about the experience. We're very visual. You can go on to our recruiting platforms and you can see photos of our facility and you can see we're not that traditional, like dirty assembly line manufacturing that people kind of picture when they're thinking really more so about like food service or tools or mechanics. They're not thinking about technology and computer driven and the creative side of the industry as well. So there's not a lot of color to the image that people make up in their head. So we've really tried to do a lot of that in our recruitment advertising. And I think the other thing that we've done is just make efforts to bring people in to see the space. So we've worked a lot with the different vocational programs in our area at the high school level, with a number of the colleges in our area. We're very fortunate in Baltimore. There's a really robust educational community. There's 25 or 30 local universities, and then a number of magnet and vocational style programs that could still teach printing, advertising, graphic communications, and kids can get certified in that. We've started with saying, how do we work with the students and get in front of people when they're considering this career? Let's do tours. Let's invite groups in. Let's go to the classroom if that's an opportunity for us. And we've gotten to do a lot of that over time. So I think that's been huge too in combating that perception. Get them while they're young, while they don't have that preformed opinion of what's out there for them. They've obviously already expressed an interest because they're pursuing something in a related class. But yeah, just getting in front of, especially graphic designers, for example, when graphic design students are considering where they're going to apply, they all envision, I think, this I'm going to be an artist kind of mentality. And that's out there for some people, but it's not out there for everybody. There is also this commercial production world where art is needed from a business marketing standpoint. And there's a ton of opportunity in that space. So get them before they've made up their mind that the only thing they can be is an artist. Let them see that there is a way to take that artistic ability and apply it to a career that maybe has a little bit more stability or security or consistency to it, and that you can still do a lot of really cool things. The number one thing we hear from graphic designers who are either interviewing with us or who are even exiting with us, if they've come to the end of their journey, they are telling us that the number one thing they love about it is the opportunity to work on many brands, many different types of projects and identities. And if you go and be somebody's in-house designer, in-house artist, you're going to be siloed to that one brand or that one identity. So there's perks to coming into printing.
Mhm. Really, the variety of jobs and projects, and because you have so many different technologies, you could be designing for a brochure one day, a billboard another, a building wrap. It could literally be anything.
Yeah. And we're very industry agnostic. So they could be working for a medical facility 1 hour, and then the next hour their client could be a restaurant. And then the hour after that, it could be a manufacturer. It could be a small business, a mid-sized business. It could be a major brand. Like we're
Mhm.
working right now on a project that is a stadium. So major brands advertising where we're getting to contribute to that experience. Yeah, they have their own designers and they're submitting a lot of the collateral and things like that, but we get to work with them. And at the end of the day, it'll be pretty cool because some of them will get to go to a game and say, hey, I worked on that.
And that's really cool, and that's part of, I think, one of the benefits to this industry too, is the fact that you can literally walk in, especially in and around the city that you're in, and, "I helped with that project, I helped," and there's that tangible
Mhm.
success and that pride that comes from it.
Yeah, for sure.
In talking about getting in front of students, obviously, you're talking about more like the vocational, so you're looking at what, junior colleges and college level?
We start in high school. We work with a number of programs in the Baltimore area that have juniors and seniors primarily, but we work with as young as high school freshmen.
Does it pay to start even earlier?
It may. We haven't gotten to go below the high school level when the kids are actually considering, do I want to go into a vocational program and do I want to look at that? And I know that we're pretty blessed in the Baltimore area and that we have some pretty good educators who, when they do those kind of fairs with the middle schoolers, they have a lot of good things to say and they relay that message. But I think the earlier you can get involved with people to tell them what the options are, kids are so concrete and they just think differently than adults. They grow up thinking I'm going to be a policeman, a firefighter, an astronaut, a ballerina. Their conceptions of the careers that are available are just very finite and concrete. So I think exposing them to different things is so interesting. I had this experience where about 10 years ago, when I had first had my parents come down to Baltimore after I had moved and everything, I brought them in on the weekend to show them through the building and what we did and where I was working now. And we're standing in the press room. And I worked for a printer in college. And it's funny because I had at that point worked in printing for 7 years and he had never told me and like he had just never exposed me to it. So even having it as something that my dad did as a college job, I guess
Hmm.
they all did per diem work at a bindery to do handwork for beer money. But
Whatever
even,
works at that point,
yeah,
right?
but even at that point that I had been in for 6 or 7 years, he had never mentioned it. I just think it's something people don't necessarily think to mention. They go to these very traditional career mindsets and they don't necessarily talk about the what do you do day in, day out. I think for people to really understand what the job could entail, what a typical day looks like, younger, they can broaden their horizons, know what else is
Mhm.
out there, consider other options.
And at that point, in some ways, when they're younger, they're more malleable. You see how kids get excited over certain things, but to be able to see something get printed from a file to a final piece, and now they're walking around, they're like, I saw that printed. Now I see it. That I think would light a fire within some of these kids. But what opportunities do we really have to touch the kids in those younger grades?
Yeah. And I think that kids in the younger grades now, they're doing so much with technology to expose them to coding and to expose them to the visual world of computers. So I think integrating with that could
Hmm.
be a direction to go because they're already getting exposed. It's amazing to me. My 10-year-old nephew, I bet, could build a website.
Most likely. But they're digital first. It's such a different environment that what I grow up in, what you grew up in. Things have changed so much in terms of technology. Always interesting to see where we're going. And we're talked a lot about with schooling and recruitment and looking at it that way. Now, for you, you've been in the industry for a while. How do you continue to advance and grow yourself professionally?
There's a couple of different things that I do. One is that I've been very fortunate in the whole time that I've been in the Maryland area to join and be active in a peer group. When I moved to Maryland, obviously I didn't have a lot of connections here. Laws vary from state to state. Law is very important in the work of HR. So understanding that. And sometimes you want to ask the question of somebody who is not an attorney. So getting somebody who's in it every day and understanding the real world of it. I've been doing a peer group for about 11 years now that is in the HR space. And that's been my way to build relationships and talk to other people. I've also done a lot of one off type of events, whether it's a conference or a leadership development program or things like that. I always describe myself as a lifelong learner. I wouldn't necessarily want to go and sit in a classroom and get another degree at this point in my life, but I never want to stop learning and I never want to think that I know everything that's out there. So that to me has been really big is just taking the opportunities where they are. And there are so many opportunities that people don't realize exist out there, whether it is through your insurance company or whether it's through a consultant that you use or just a network connection that you have, or maybe your business is a member of a chamber of commerce and that's not really your role in the organization, but it's free to attend their events because your business is a member. So just knowing what's out there, signing up for all of those different newsletters and event invites and things like that, and making myself available to what's going on in the community. Again, fortunate in Baltimore, it's a large urban area, so there's a lot that goes on. But I think just capitalizing on that has been really big for me. And I've had the opportunity a handful of times to work with younger people, whether it's been students in the programs that I've mentioned earlier, or whether it's been just people that I've connected with through the peer group or through other things. I've gotten some opportunity to do a little bit of coaching with other people, and I learned a ton from that. And to me, that's a big thing because I had people do that for me early in my career, whether they understood HR, or whether they understood marketing, or whether they were even in the print industry, or they were just somebody that I happen to know. I think that you have the opportunity to learn from everybody, whether they are more tenured than you, less tenured than you, work in your field, work in a totally different segment of the business. Just being open. I've been fortunate to have a lot of really good bosses who have been really outside of the box thinkers too. And I think that's been really great for me is just to ask questions and not be shy and try different things and see what works. Something different works with everybody in every situation.
Definitely. Now, in terms of the peer group, obviously your networking is very important. What is it about those networking areas really helps you grow and stretch?
I think it's all about the conversation and the dialogue you have with those people. My peer group today, for example, it consists of about 15 members. We're not all in the same industry. We're not all in the same exact role within our organization. We're not all at the same point in our career. Sometimes they're bringing their interns as guests. And some people are in that C-level or that leadership level space, and some people are that hands-on frontline recruiter or HR generalist or benefits specialist. And so I think just talking to different people about those different topics, hearing the challenges, discussing things. Our last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about what's going on with the environment surrounding returning people to office and trying to eliminate more remote work. And everybody has their different challenges with it. So on the one hand, I get to talk to a manufacturer, and on the other hand, I get to talk to an engineering firm that has a ton of field employees. And the next one is an insurance company that lets everybody work remotely like 4 days a week. So everybody's experiences are different. I think just hearing different perspectives and asking questions and having that resource between meetings as well to know that, hey, Sam in that group, she's somebody who recruits similar people to me. Let me email her and see if she's experiencing this or if she's tried this before, or knowing that, hey, Lita has a really simple process for rating policies and a very similar culture to us. There's this new policy coming out in Maryland. What has she done about it? Getting to go and know those people and keep that consistency of that relationship over time by it not being those one-off experiences. I think the one-off experiences are valuable too, because you get that one nugget or those two nuggets from the speaker that are great and that you can go back and apply immediately. But it's different to be able to build relationships with people over years and be able to ask them questions with that filter in mind of their company culture or their recruiting need or their style, their personal communication style, their writing style, whatever it may be that makes it a fit for you.
Hmm. Now, in terms of mentorship, which you mentioned, was it a structured program that you had, or was it really more like ad hoc in a way?
It's definitely been more ad hoc in my experience. I've not really been in formal structured programs. I did a management training program with Staples going back like 15 years,
Mm.
where they did set up formal times for you to work with specific people. So it wasn't that you had one mentor, you had a bunch that you learned different things from, and you're completing a checklist of a program. But in doing it myself and in working with other people, to me, it's been much more informal. It's, hey, can I have a call with you to talk about this? And then, great, let's continue that. We have this conversation about the challenge that you're facing. Let's talk about some different things you could do. Great. A week from now, follow up with me. Tell me how it went. I've done a lot of that, and I've had a lot of people do that for me over time. And I think that to me has been more valuable than checking the boxes, because then you're making it about what is most important than about fulfilling a requirement. But that's my style. And some people really value the structure.
Yeah. Then the question is there a way to, even if it's not a solid structure, is there a way to start implementing this further or in more companies to really help those that are just starting out? A lot of them might not have a formal program or even an informal program. It's really just learning as you go. Is there a way to, I don't want to say standardize, but is there a way to even structure some of these so that way they're easier for companies of any size to implement for some of their newer employees?
So we've dabbled with the idea of doing something that I don't want to say is formal, but that is slightly more structured or more guided for new hires, connecting them with somebody who's longer tenure in the organization, who's in the same or similar role to them, or maybe a little bit further along and can get them where they're wanting to go. And that is so subjective, because you've got to pair the person with the right fit for them. And that can be hard to do when somebody all of 3 hours from interviewing them.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a challenge, but that's something that we've toyed with. Where I've seen it done well, this is outside of the industry, but this is somebody in my peer group that had been doing it. They actually created I'm going to call it like a suggestion box type of platform where anybody could go in and submit, I'm interested in being a mentor. I'm interested in looking for a mentor, and did some questionnaires and things like that, and ended up pairing people based on that. And they truly left it to them to say, you decide how it goes, but you've expressed an interest in mentoring on these types of topics. You've expressed an interest in learning about these type of topics or wanting to go in this direction in your career. This person's the best fit for you. Try it out, see how it goes, report back. And they had a lot of success with that, and really didn't cost them anything to do it other than giving the person a little bit of time to meet with their mentor. And it was a pretty, I would say, low effort. It just wrote the questionnaire, read the questionnaires, paired the people, made the introduction, and then checked in periodically and stepped off from there. So very low effort, very easy to do, could fit companies of all sizes.
Interesting. That's really an interesting way to go about it. And not, I wouldn't say like a low impact, but a low effort in one way, at least. It's
Yeah.
something to get you started at that point.
Yeah, their big challenge was they didn't have a budget in
Mhm.
order to implement this program, but it was something that they felt really passionate about doing because they were having this huge age gap, which I think is similar to what the printing industry is experiencing as well. We have an aging workforce in our more traditional roles. I
Mhm.
think the youngest guy in our press room is in his mid 50s. You have a runway with those people that everybody wants to retire one day. And that's a challenge. And then you have a lot of these younger people that are coming out of school that are more knowledgeable in that digital native computer space. And how do you take the traditional skill set that these guys who have been in the industry their entire career have and transfer it to those young people? And how do you take that comfort with technology and transfer it to people who have been in the industry forever and who are maybe coming towards the end of their career and not super jazzed about learning something new
Mhm.
and get them to work with each other and pair up? And that was their challenge. And we've had the same challenge. So they were looking for ways of how do I partner somebody who is very new into the industry with somebody who's probably needing a succession plan and is very much reaching the end of their time horizon.
Yeah, and one thing that I know I'm worried about just in the industry as a whole is all the knowledge that we're losing. As people are aging out, as they're starting to retire, how are we capturing that information, that expertise? Who are those next people? I think that's a lot of concerns for a lot of people in a lot of different print shops because in some cases they just don't have the person to go and take the next step on that press.
Yeah.
I know
And
there
even if you do, you then have people who are nervous about giving up the information that they have. There's been so much history of layoffs from changing technology and bringing in these new tools that people get scared of it. And especially if they're close to retirement, they don't want to risk it of being displaced by technology before they're ready to
yeah.
move on. And so we've had some experience with that. And we're not special or unique in that. Every printer is facing that challenge of those people who are near retirement. They may not be quite ready to give up all that institutional knowledge that they have.
Yeah, but it's sad though in some ways that they take it with them when they leave. And I've even heard of some companies that literally have had to shut down offset presses because they just don't have anybody to run them anymore because their pressmen retired and
Yeah.
it was just they were done, which is scary to have to face that kind of I don't have anybody to run it, can we figure it out? It's not exactly something you can figure out.
That's true. It is not something you can learn in an hour by watching a YouTube video.
No, not quite. You could
Yeah.
try, give it a good shot, but I don't think that's gonna work. The old college try.
Yeah. We've tried to be really intentional just in given the industry and given that challenge coming across. We've tried to be really intentional about not having single specialty operators, making sure they know several pieces of equipment they can move where the work is. We don't have 40 hours worth of work on a right angle folder every week. It's just not the way the industry is now.
Mhm.
And certainly it was like that years ago, but now you've got to be able to move with the work and to learn lots of different pieces of technology and different pieces of equipment. I think that's helped us a lot. Nobody only really works in their department. They typically can assist in another department or two and run a couple pieces of equipment outside of their core piece of equipment or pieces of equipment that they run every day. And that's been a way to get some of the younger people into learning from the operators who are more tenured is this isn't about replacing you. This is about cross training people. And if they're cross trained, then they're more valuable to the organization. They can earn more money. That's good for them. And it's good for us because it gives us more flexibility.
Yeah, I was gonna say, during COVID, even a lot of people, they took the time if there was quieter times that they were cross-training because at some point, pandemic's gonna end, we're going to start up again, so to have people that are now flexible, people can actually then take vacations. You can flex your schedules, and your staff's a lot better, so that way nothing goes gets missed in the process.
Yeah. And we have so many people who they don't like to take their vacation time. They pride themselves on not missing work. And so they don't need to teach anybody else their job, which is great until you really need that vacation day.
Or you get the flu.
Yeah.
Life happens, things happen, unfortunately, not that you wanna wish ill on anybody, but it's a fact
Yeah.
of life.
I always say if they win the lottery.
Yeah. Win the lottery or their kid comes home with the nasty daycare germs, and you never know. So, in conclusion, one of my favorite questions that I always ask is knowing what you know now, based on your experience in the industry, so starting at Staples and working your way through the management programs, all the things that you've learned now at Strategic Factory. If you were just starting out today, if you were walking in the door, first day on the job, what advice would you give yourself?
There are a couple of pieces of advice I would give my the younger self. I definitely would encourage myself to just explore a little bit more, understand the opportunities that are out there, not be so rigid in my thinking. Again, I came into this particular organization saying, I can do this job for a year and then I'll move on from it. And thankfully, I was not stuck to that. I saw the opportunity that was in front of me and didn't move on after that year. But I wish I would have told myself to be a little bit more open minded from the get go. So I think that would be a big thing. I think just asking a lot of questions and never being shy and never being afraid to ask a question. Everybody goes to times in their career where they're intimidated by somebody that they work with, or they have that imposter syndrome, or they're fearful of what they don't know and they're covering for that. And so I think just being honest about what you don't know, admitting when you need help. I think that's hard for everybody to do. And I think that's advice everybody would give their younger self is ask for help more. One of the other pieces of advice that I would probably give my younger self is going back to that whole schooling experience and realizing that I was in the wrong major. I feel like I went to college because everybody
Went to
was
college.
going to college.
Yeah.
It became the high school diploma. Everybody was expected to get it. And I didn't go because I had some extreme passion for it or because I was so excited about it. I love to learn, but I'm not necessarily loving the classroom. So I think just appreciating there are other ways to learn is a piece of advice I would give my much younger self, my 18-year-old self who was going off to college. There are so many different things out there that I think are available to kids now that I didn't really have the experience of because they just weren't as common. There's so many experiences with internships and study abroad and just other trade school opportunities, vocational school opportunities, things I didn't get exposed to because I was always on that college track. And because you didn't need internships and experiences to graduate at that time like you do now. So I think just not being so tied to the traditional environmental learning would have been something that I would have loved to have known early on. I think I figured it out probably when I was about 25. And I could have learned a lot in those years that I spent in college and very early in my formative years of my career if I had been more open to that.
Mhm. That's not something you know until much later on, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's great that they force kids now to write a resume and go to career fairs and do internships and do study abroad experiences and all of these things that they require them now to do or encourage them to do to graduate. Just wasn't like that when I was in college, and there weren't as many different paths you could go down. And so it definitely is a lesson I wish I had learned sooner. And I wish I had done a lot of those things.
Mhm. And I've talked with a number of women that one of the things they say is not everybody's built for college.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of the schools push that as the path. But can we start pushing the vocational schools or apprenticeships or other things that really help to build in industries where we need people?
Yeah. And especially for women, they push the college track. There's this perception that whether it's manufacturing or whether it's another industry, that some of these more trade oriented things are male jobs. They're male dominated. And I think the print industry is really making a lot of headway in that, but it's still very traditionally thought of as male dominated. And so exposing women to that very early on in their careers or going into high school as young women and being able to know that there are other options out there and not being so siloed or directed into just the traditional college path,
Yeah.
I think could be pretty powerful for a lot of people who don't have the money to go to college or don't have the desire to go to college or don't want to go to college until they know what they want to do with their lives.
Yeah. I know for me, that was one of the things that my parents said. Do you know what you actually want to do? If that's the path and college is the path, then let's do that. But I guess I was lucky. I knew what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Yeah. I think there's so many people that are going to college hoping they're going to figure out what they want to do while they're there.
Hmm.
And not that some people don't, lots of people do. I did. But a lot of people are spending a lot of money to realize they have no idea what they want to do.
Yeah, it might pay to wait a little while, go into the real world and have some jobs, have some experiences, and see really what becomes your passion at that point.
Totally agree.
Shannon, it was a pleasure chatting with you today, so thanks for taking a little bit of time.
Thanks so much, Denise. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to celebrate and amplify the voices of women in the printing industry. If you have a story to share or know someone whose journey deserves to be highlighted, we'd love to hear from you. Together, let's continue inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders. Until next time, keep leaving your imprint. This is Her Imprint. See you soon.